Welcome everybody to episode 25 of the Drew Pavlis Show. Eagerly awaited. I know everybody's been eagerly looking forward to today's live stream. This is our 25th day of streaming in a row. Very proud. We're actually 1/4 of the way there in the 100-day streaming challenge. And I want to say, if you've been following along so far, thank you so much. It's been good fun. I've actually started to enjoy streaming. Today, I will be joined by Joshua Dabelstein. He's a writer. He recently published an article with the AFR. I'll quickly post the link and then I'll bring him on. He's about to join. I'll just quickly put it in my announcements on my Discord. If you're part of my Discord, make sure to share it around. I'll post the Twitch as well. 1 second. We've got one person on Twitch. We need to build that up, guys. We need to build that up. All right. Thank you guys for waiting. I will quickly give the link to Josh and we'll start things up. How was everyone's day today? I think it's been a great day. It's been a great day. Comment your thoughts, guys. We've got one comment, but this guy hates me. I hate Extel Secularists. Fuck that guy. Please, if you're watching and you're a supporter of the show, comment your thoughts. Help me out. Don't let me hang here, guys. Now Josh is about to join. We'll be discussing Israel-Palestine. So many things to discuss today. Just going to quickly post up one more time. Hi, Drew. If Drew hates XTLP, then I hate him too. You saw my Nazi Mao post. Yep, that was a good post. I think that was what the Greens tried to base their campaign off, Nazi Maoism. I don't think it worked. Lauma, hello, mate. How are you? Thanks for joining. What's the lay of the land today, guys? What are you guys thinking? Drew, do you think that the Indian attacks were justified? I'll discuss India, Pakistan later. Patriot lost Ma checking in. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Joshua, thanks for joining us, mate.
How are you?
Yeah, no, good. Thanks for joining, man. I apologize that this is the first time we're ever talking over the live stream because I just don't really do phone calls as much. But thanks for joining.
That was actually remarkable. Earlier I was thinking, Drew wants to talk about politics. He's going to have a bunch of highfalutin things to discuss and we can both kind of be as on top of them as we can be. But has anyone ever actually interviewed Drew on his own show? Anyway, I let the thought come and go. And then not long after I call you, you don't answer and you text me and you say, I'm a Zoomer. What was the word?
Oh well, look, I just don't do text message. I mainly text. It's an older generation thing, I think, to phone call. How old are you again, Josh?
I'm 34, but I thought it was great.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to say you're a boomer or anything. I don't mean that, but you know how it is. I mean, I love to text. But it's good. I mean, you can interview me, but I'll interview you as well.
No.
I've got a question. Drew, are you Turkish? No, I'm not. What's happening here, Josh, is all the sort of Nazi accounts like to call me Turkish, which is pretty funny, to be honest.
What do they think
I
you're
don't
in
even know why.
Snatch?
What do you say?
What do they think you were the guy from Snatch?
I don't know. I mean, they just call me Turkish because they think it annoys me, but I just find it funny, to be honest. But I've got a comment.
No,
Why is Zim scared of phone calls? I'm not scared of phone calls. I was behind in a university essay, which is still actually due. I'm past the due date. It's been a very fraught time. But Josh, should we start perhaps with your article of the other day, which is interesting, because we can talk about Israel Palestine. We can also talk about anti-Semitism in Australia and all these things. I'll get up a share screen of the article in the AFR. And I'd like to hear your thoughts and what motivated your voting like that. It's very interesting. Okay, so bringing that up. Let me make sure I'm logged in so that it's not paywalled. Okay. I pay for the AFR. It's a very expensive subscription. It's like $60 a month, unfortunately. Okay. Let me bring it up.
And just give me a sec, actually. I'm going to post the link.
Yeah, please do. Please.
So where are we streaming to?
So I'm on YouTube right now.
All right.
I'll send you the YouTube link, and you can share on your Substack and stuff. Hang on.
Yeah, do that.
Because I know that some of our mutual friends were keen to join and everything. Yeah. Post the link. You'll probably reach more people. I don't know. I feel like I've been shadow banned.
We actually have some really interesting mutual friends.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like especially interesting. It's
the Messiah, of course.
Well, there's that.
Absolutely.
But no, it's actually like it is a real blessing to be able to hold conversations with such intelligent people. And like even if you've just got like a small network of people who all have their own kind of special interest, I don't know. I learn a lot from conversations with friends.
Absolutely, and that's why I wanted to do the live show, because I mean I've basically been streaming every single day, and I want to make it like a radio show, like literally have guests and everything. And I was like, why not have Josh on? Because I've seen your Substack articles, I find it very interesting, and I want to help promote your Substack too. We'll go through it. We've got a comment for you by this guy Yusuf, who's a Muslim Uyghur in America, and he says, I wonder if Josh has seen videos of the ongoing pro-Hamas rallies in Canada and Australia. I know he's very anti-Hamas, which is interesting.
Give me one moment. I want to answer that properly.
Yeah, you
got to bear in mind, I'm 34. I'm a guy who communicates over the phone. I'm struggling.
Yeah, no.
Link to Drew and cool. I'm going to post that to Facebook as well.
Yeah, share the link around. That's good. Let's have more people join. Excellent.
And let's get that link somewhere.
Yeah, I'll actually post it on my Facebook too.
I've just been sent a. Why would I be receiving why would someone tell me that they can't get in? That's strange.
Get in. Did you post the StreamYard or did you post the YouTube link?
I'm posting the YouTube link. Yeah.
Oh,
no, I'm sure he'll work it out. He's
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the YouTube link you can just literally click right on.
And the guy's
one more time.
The guy's literally a quantum mechanic. Literally,
totally.
That's his role. So if he can't
I'm sure he'll figure out the YouTube link then.
Yeah,
sounds like a smart guy.
Yeah. Cool. All right, and where else should I get this link out to?
You should post it on your Substack too.
Yeah, I will. I've been pretty. Are you using Substack? You are. I've read.
I actually like it a lot. I think it's actually better than Twitter, to be honest.
Yeah. So I was really hesitant at first because I just kind of thought, look, I know I'm a writer, and this is probably a ridiculous thing for a writer to say, but I really do think that most of the written word is like it's a pretty obsolete mode of communication.
You mean writing?
Yeah.
That's sad to think about.
I just think it, like most of what we read, when people say things like people don't read anymore, and it's kind of this
Yeah.
romanticized, like,
It's
oh,
kind of true,
nobody.
though.
But I feel like we're actually reading more than ever before. We're just reading kind of like this spray of shit from all of these different angles. But we're reading a lot more than ever before. It's just like there's so much at the same time.
I guess if you're thinking about like Twitter and all that as well.
Yeah. And I don't see I just don't
That is true, I
see
think.
like that many people I don't see that many people sitting down to read a long form post. But that said, like, I have been pleasantly surprised. And yeah, certain communities will go straight to it.
That. I fully get that. I mean, one of the main reasons that I'm doing live streaming and YouTube at the same time that I'm doing my Substack is because, like, I am unfortunately conscious of the fact that, like, a lot of people like actually don't really read, especially like sort of our generation, which is sad. So like, I mean, I'm trying to like do my Substack alongside YouTube and live streaming. And like the funny thing is, I often turn my Substack posts into video essays and stuff like that, which is like probably good because it probably reaches more people that way. But I also agree with you. I actually have been pleasantly surprised, but there are still people out there who read.
Yeah, we're out there.
Yeah, exactly. This is actually a good one to start with. Did you hear the new Kanye song, which is so mental?
Man, I follow you, so I've heard enough.
Yeah. It's literally, it literally is like a full blown like Hitler support song, which is like insane.
All right, I've posted all of my stuff everywhere now, so I'm going to come back and meet you here properly. Let's have a look at your face. Right, there you are. Cool. Okay. Oh, who is that dog? Hello, I've seen you before.
Yeah. No, it's very cute. I've got a little puppy, 6 months old Labradoodle called Belle, and she basically just sits on me every time I live stream, which is funny. It's good fun, to be honest.
Mine will come in soon, I'm sure.
Oh, you got a dog?
Lacey.
Oh, that's sweet. No, I love dogs, man. They're the best. They're so nice. Always relaxing to be with the dog. Okay, so tell me, give me a bit about your background, your family history, and all that sort of stuff. Because I know your Substacks and everything, but I don't know much about you. I mean, we've never really properly talked before this live stream.
Yeah, I mean, family history, I don't really want to go into because it's mostly rather boring. But I think that, who I am with regards to, like, where my people are from, I'm a complete mongrel. So yeah. But, the reason I guess that question is important at the moment is because a lot of my writing has come to be around the predicament that Jews around the world find themselves in. I don't really write much, if anything, I don't think, about what's going on in Israel, because I honestly, there are other people doing a great job of that, and I like to be really specific
maybe I should change the chat title then. Maybe I should change from Israel Palestine chat to just be like, I don't know, what should I call it instead? Like Judaism chat or something like that. Anti-Semitism? I don't know.
I think Jewish diaspora is probably the best way. That's what interests me.
All right, I'm going to make that the YouTube title now. Chatting at Jewish diaspora with Joshua Dabelstein. Okay, that's cool. I'm changing that now. So yeah, that's what you're interested in. I don't know. You did any writing before all this stuff popped up?
Yeah. So when I was 19, so 15 years ago, I walked onto the ANU campus in Canberra, and I was really interested in writing. I'd kind of been like writing journals and stuff. I'd done well in HSC English, and I'd had this idea of being a writer. Being 19 years old, I was pretty taken with people like Hunter S. Thompson and whatever, and George Orwell.
Oh, dude, I'm the same. That's literally me at that age. I still get like that,
Yeah, I love them. I love them both. And so I thought, okay, I'll go straight up to the student newspaper. And I went up there. There was a guy called Adam Brereton who ended up editing at The Guardian for a while. He's a good guy. He hasn't written or edited for quite a while now. another fellow called Alex Cubis, who at the time was a Labor guy, but again, I don't know where he ended up. But those two guys, I thought they were cool, and they handed me a cask of port, like warm, cheap port, and we drank port in the ANU Students' Union office, and I was like, yeah, this seems like a cool place to be. So I started writing for the student newspaper. I started getting published by New Matilda in my early 20s.
Oh, and, nice. Nice.
Did a lot for them.
I haven't seen New Matilda in ages. What are they? Do they still publish?
They still do. They do. It's interesting. Like at that point in my life, I kind of drank the anti-Zionist Kool-Aid.
Dude, look, I think we're all like way more lefty when we were like 18. I mean, I think we're probably similar in that like we both were way more lefty like 5-10 years ago or whatever.
I think so. Although, I'm desperate to ask you what you mean by the word left wing, but we'll park it for the moment.
Sure. I mean, good question. Good question.
I tend to think of left wing and right wing as more conceptions of liberty and negative conceptions of liberty versus positive conceptions of liberty. So a left winger like myself, I believe that I should have the freedom from the transgressions of others, whereas a right winger, a liberal, would expect to have the freedom to do what they like. And I kind of work out from that angle. I don't like the left and right being separated by conceptions of moralisms, because moralisms are too subjective and also too authoritarian. I think moralisms are very authoritarian. Anyway. So I was very, very left, for lack of a better word. And I was writing for a long time, but, without getting too personal, I had really bad mental health. I had a really bad drug addiction. And so by the time I was 26, I just, I couldn't do it. I'd lost my job. I got a job in the Senate Press Gallery in Parliament House, and I was so proud of myself. And I couldn't keep it. I couldn't get there. I was drunk. I was high. And they fired me. And it just kind of was like that for my late teens into my mid to late 20s. It was kind of a couple wins, a bunch of losses, couple wins. I couldn't write until I got properly clean and sober. And I started writing again.
What I actually just before this, I saw you posted something very recently about this history or stuff. I don't know how much you want to get into it on this live stream particularly, but I mean, it is interesting. Like, sort of, how did you find yourself in that kind of dark place? And how did you find yourself out of it?
Well, I'll answer in order. I actually think it's really important to humanize people's opinions. I think that we're very, very quick to look at somebody's opinion and judge them and smite them and bully them and cancel them. And I actually think that, if we knew a little bit more about where people were coming from, I've heard people say things that I know are bigoted. And then the longer you spend time with them, without excusing the bigotry, I go from being like, I hate you, to being like, I understand how the dominoes in your life led you to a position in which you would think that is a reasonable thing to say. I still would rather you're not going to be babysitting for us. But, we're all human. And so that's why I try to be open about things like mental illness and drug addiction and stuff, because it's such a significant part of my life. And I think that most people sweep it under the rug and say that was part of another thing, and now I'm well and everything's fine. And it's like, actually, we're all complicated, and these things bleed into each other.
I get you. I mean, I'd certainly struggle a lot with depression and stuff when I was in my teenage years, and anxiety and all this sort of stuff. So I understand. But I mean, you seem to have gone through a very dark time, and commendations for getting out of that. And what was that like for you? Like, how did you climb back out of that place?
I had a lot of help. I've just actually uploaded something to my YouTube channel.
I just saw that actually,
where I kind of go into more detail about that process. But the long and short of it is, very, very lucky. I got really lucky a couple times. For someone who doesn't believe in an interventionist God, the experiences I've had have at least helped me understand why so many people do. And I got really lucky a lot of times, a lot of help, 12-step programs, psychotherapy. I was taught the value of labor by, I know it's not a popular thing to say, but like the examples set by older men who I had nothing in common with, like politically, but like men in 12-step programs who were like, hey, if you want like a normal life, you need to sell your labor on a daily basis at a wage that works for you. You need to make rent on time. You need to keep your word. You know, you don't talk shit about other people, be punctual, things that I just avoided and thought were part of the system. And it turns out, you know, I'm not trying to get all 12 rules for life or 10 rules for life or whatever it is, but
what sort of like field did you end up working in?
I was a landscape gardener. I started off on a construction site, fresh out of a rehab. There was a construction site across the road, and I ended up getting a job there. I then ended up fixing up old churches with a stonemason for a while. That was really interesting work.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then for about 5 years, I worked. I started my own business while I was at uni. I went to uni, and I got a degree.
Or was that like second time or?
Yeah. I could never finish anything. And then once I got sober, I went to RMIT and I got a degree. And then I started this business just so I could have my own flexibility. And I got lucky. COVID hit and everybody was looking at their gardens thinking, wouldn't it be nice if we could do X, Y, Z? And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And
nice.
Yeah.
So what was what's your business out of interest like?
That business was a landscape gardening business called Home and Hosed. And I had a great time. But, you know, this leads us to, you know, it was October 7th and I'd kind of, it was the nexus of a few events. You know, I'd gone to Melbourne to get sober and to sort my shit out. And then October 7th happened and I was ready to like come home to Sydney, and it all kind of felt like, I think it's time to pack up the tools and go home, you know? So I moved back here just over a year ago, and I went, you know, instead of going back into the gardening and starting another business, I thought, let's do the other thing I love and see how that goes. And so I've been writing religiously since I got back up here.
No, that's really cool, man. So you've really been in like journalism for so you've gotten back into writing for about like a year now or a year and a half?
Like I never stopped. Like I don't think I ever went 12 months without like publishing something. But I went into like a more literary space. I was writing personal essays and personal nonfiction published through RMIT and that type of thing. A few other like smaller journals. There's something about like getting sober where at least my experience was that I was so sure about how the world worked and who I was and what was right and what was wrong and who I hate and who I love. And everything was inverted and twisted and turned upside down. And I ended up pretty unsure of whether or not I could even trust my own feelings. So I would generate a political opinion, and then I would be falsifying it to the nth degree, because the first thing I learned in recovery is that my best thinking got me here. Like every wonderful idea I've had about how to get clean, how to get sober, all of the wonderful ideas I have, and no matter how smart I am or whatever, I've ended up in a police station again in my own piss. So obviously, I can't trust my own thinking. That put me in a position when it came to looking at my politics of a profound recalibration in a sense. And while my politics themselves didn't actually change that much, my ability to prosecute them so carelessly changed immensely.
Yeah. No, interesting. So I'm interested. I mean, you talk about, the way you describe your writing, you say it's not necessarily about Israel-Palestine, but I guess about the Jewish diaspora at large. I don't know. Tell us about how October 7 affected you, and you know how that led to I guess you'd change your approach to politics and your worldview a bit, because it certainly changed my worldview a lot.
You just stopped me when I, because this is something that I might accidentally talk about for too long.
No, please, man. No, please. It's really interesting.
The first thing I would say is I distinguish between October 7th and October 8th. They're very different events for me. October 7th happened, and the first thing I did was called the only Palestinian I know, because my first thought was there's a guy called Fahad Ali, actually, and I just
I know Fahad Ali. I know Fahad Ali.
And so I just, my first thought was
I'll just very briefly preface my knowledge of Fahad Ali, but he used to be part of a sort of like University of Queensland discussion forum that we had, like just the political shitposting space. And when I got punched by like the CCP supporters back in 2019 at UQ, he was like cheering it on. But like you I'm interested. So you messaged him. What was that like?
Well, for me, politics end. This is not true, actually. I was going to say politics end when the bombs start dropping, but that's not true. But something shifts, and I don't know. I just known him for a long time, and he's a human.
How did you know him out of it?
University of Sydney.
Yeah.
And we're all complicated people, and it was just it was the first thing I thought. I was looking at the footage that was rolling in of Israeli citizens, and I just thought, next is going to be the footage of the bombs. And so I lived in Caulfield at the time. And I called him, and we started talking a lot more around that time. And so for me, October 7th was actually, I was immediately thinking about November 7th. Like that's the Jew inside me is like, okay, cool. So like now we got to plan ahead, because this is just, you got to see some weeks ahead here. Stuff happens very, very fast.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have time. I didn't do any grieving or anything. I have family there, but again, for me, like it was more about, I was gardening, and I had a lot of clients who had family there, and my ex-partner in the southern suburbs of Melbourne, I knew that she'd introduced me to a bunch of people in the area, and I don't know, like I was doing some community work in a youth center with Orthodox teenage boys, just because of my background in being a recalcitrant, and so I was kind of like enmeshed in and of course I was going to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous kind of mash up at a local synagogue for a Jewish 12-step meeting, and so I kind of had like a lot of, to put it in Jenny Leong's words, a lot of tentacles through the local Jewish community.
That was a good quote. That was the best quote ever.
And she's pray for her, man. If you're a praying man, pray for that woman. No one else is.
You know what's funny? I actually, I knew her, like, so I went to a Tibet rally in 2020 in Sydney. And she spoke at that rally, and she didn't know who I was then, and I didn't know her either. And after I gave my speech, she was like, "Oh, that was a great speech," and we got a photo together. And who would have known that, like 5 years later, like I'd be like fierce hater of her online, and she would know who I am now and hate me a lot. It's just sad. Like I think she became way more extremist. I think so. But yeah. Sorry, you go on.
No, it's really hard to know. Actually, that's a whole other thing. To what extent do these things make people extremists, or do they give people the license to lean in to things that they've always harbored but known? Their super ego was like it knew, like we don't go there, but we see enough other people going there, and they're like, okay, let's let the flag fly.
I think with Jenny it was maybe COVID. So what happened was, so she was someone who always went to the Tiananmen Square memorial rallies all the time in Sydney, and she always went to the Tibetan rallies as well. her family background is Chinese, and she was always like associating with the Chinese democracy movement. Those guys, she supported them. And then after COVID, I remember she started going really hard criticizing people who were criticizing the Chinese government, saying you're promoting xenophobia and stuff like that. And at one point she said, I've started to learn Chinese Mandarin, like to own the racists. And I think I think she honestly maybe fell down like a tanky rabbit hole, because apparently she's never gone back to any one of those Tibetan rallies or Tiananmen rallies. And this is the fact, this is pretty sad, because, she'd gone to them every single year.
Really?
And it's like, yeah, and she just completely abandoned that. And then you saw her do that crazy speech where she was talking about the tentacles of the Zionists and stuff like that. And I just feel like she's potentially someone who's fallen down a massive tanky rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Steve, thanks for joining, Steve.
It's not just that as well. It's I mean, it is 100% that, but there's this lack of freedom of association within large chunks of the far left. Someone like what I'm trying to say is, a lot of the people, I spent most of my life down there with them. You aren't able to actually even entertain having your own freedom of association for a lot of things. She might be someone who actually really believes in free Tibet, but she knows she's not supposed to. So she doesn't,
That's how they work.
Yeah.
It's all about policing who you talk to and policing your associations. It's pretty scary stuff. Because I know this. Believe it or not, I was a member of the Green for 12 months when I was fucking young, and I am so embarrassed by it now. And it's and I just remember in those circles, it's like you're policed who you're talking to. You're constantly policed as to whether you're being politically correct. It is it's pretty stultifying. It's pretty pretty anti-freedom, I think.
Yeah, when I first started at uni, I would kind of open, if I had something to say in a tutorial, and I was studying, I did English literature.
I did English literature too.
And I did philosophy, and I did gender studies, and art history. And no matter which one it was, I kind of was trained very quickly to begin my question or my comment with, as a privileged white cis heterosexual male. And then by the time I was at RMIT, 8 years later, and we would go around and you had to open every tutorial at the beginning of every semester. They would open up with right now, state all of your adjectives. And I'd kind of come full circle, and I was just I'm not saying those things aren't important, but I do remember a time when they would ask us, why are you here? The emphasis on what you are is so, it doesn't seem left-wing to me. It seems like a fetishization of the self. It seems like a neoliberal corruption of the collective importance within the left.
Yeah, no, it's a very weird thing. It's a very weird thing. And I seriously remember this. To be accepted in those sort of university left-wing circles, I remember feeling like I had to rewire my brain. I feel like I had to purge myself of my problematic masculine character and stuff like that. I just always having to critically interrogate into your guilt and stuff like that. And it's probably, honestly, all this stuff, it's very unnatural, and I think it's probably why the left and the progressive have really just alienated a lot of young guys, because people don't want to feel constantly that they're guilty or something, or that they're wrong just for existing. I don't know. I think that's a big part of it.
No, I agree. I I mentioned earlier that I was doing some work. It was a couple nights a week through a youth group called Aliyah in Balaclava. And they had some teenage boys there. A lot of them were, just doing teenage boys stuff. But if they're attending a drop-in center after school, there's they might have some reasons they don't want to go home, and there might be a few different things going on. And basically, I was quite surprised by the politics of these young boys. It was within a very short space of time, it feels as though it was cool to be woke. And then all of a sudden it was just this abject rejection of anything that even smells faintly woke. And I think a a lot of people want to blame people like Andrew Tate and whatever else, but like, and I definitely, yes, but it's bigger than that, you know? It's actually
Yeah,
not, there's push and pull factors here. He's a pull factor for
yeah.
sure, but fuck, we got to take responsibility for some of those push factors.
Yeah, look, I think it's like sort of like a big cultural shift where like there was a couple of years where it was like sort of all yeah, it was a couple of years where it was all the rage and it was really popular, and I guess a lot of people maybe jumped on board out of peer pressure, and I was probably like that. You know, I remember 2020, like I was, you know, so young then, and like, you know, Black Lives Matter, I was like, yeah, I'm so progressive and everything. And then I feel like people just started slowly getting really tired of this, but it was it was probably like a preference cascade where it was like it had to pass a certain point for everybody to be like, yeah, no, this is like a really stultifying, exhausting way to live.
Hmm.
And
It
I
is.
think yeah, like I think like once the wave broke, then it really all started crashing down.
Yeah. So I look, there's two things that are kind of, you know, tickling me. One is that I would love to finish answering your question about,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
like
sorry, you
my
finish it. You
experience.
finish it. Yeah.
But I'm really interested by the comments. And do you want to take a moment to
Yeah,
address
sure. I mean,
them?
we can go through the comments. Yeah, yeah, sure.
I think you might. I think that might be helpful if you
Yeah.
feel like it.
No, no, we can certainly go through the comments. Which one are you talking about in particular? Are you talking about Yusuf and talking about October 7th and then Steve's response to that?
I think yeah, I think and look, I'm going to use colorful language not to demean anyone or anything. It's just how I
Yeah,
speak. I think the pissing contest between
yeah,
two separate horrifying events or sets of events.
yeah.
Like, can we just set so we don't have to have any more of the pissing contest? Like, can we just
No, I
establish? I think
agree
you
on
and
that.
I both agree. October 7th, like terrible day. There are a lot of other groups of people experiencing a lot of other terrible days
Yeah,
as well.
of course.
And there's
Well, look,
no one has a monopoly on tragedy, but we were talking about one of them, if you don't mind, and then we
yeah,
can
yeah.
talk about yours after for like hours if they like.
Yeah, no, look, Steve's always been a pretty supportive guy in my comment section. I'm surprised by this because look, like I've been very outspoken in condemning October 7th, but you know, Ukraine's been one of the things I've been so passionate about for like three years now, and nobody could accuse me of not caring about, you know, what the Ukrainians are going through. So like look, I just don't think it's something to set against each other. Like
Hmm.
look, these are all horrible things. When civilians get massacred, when Russia's doing it, it's horrific. When there's
Hmm.
civilians being massacred today in the Middle East, it's a horrific thing. I don't think they should
Yeah.
be opposed like that. But no, let's what were you thinking? Is there anything else you want to add to that, or
No, just that like I can understand that sometimes other people's outrage might or whatever reaction might seem like it's monopolizing, you know, the whole of outrage, but like horrifying, there's no horrifying isn't finite, right? Like there is no
yeah?
finite cap on the amount of horrifying things that can go on. And if Steve,
Unfortunately, that's true.
if there is anything in particular that Steve would like to hear me say, I'll say it, because I really don't want to make it sound like I'm. Do you know what I mean? But that said, I
No,
can't
no, of
speak
course.
to
Look,
Ukraine like you can, but I can speak to what Jews go through because I am one. You know?
no. Look, of course, and I talk about Ukraine every single day, and I've basically been talking about it every single day for 3 years now. I think we don't have to try and set these against each other because, look, at the end of the day, like you know, like Iran supported Hamas in what they did in October 7, and Iran is arming Russia with Shahed drones that are being used to massacre Ukrainian civilians in these cities. These issues, unfortunately, are actually really connected because, I mean, the way I see it, you know, Russia, Iran, China, they work together very closely. And I sometimes get people commenting like, you know, oh, Drew, just go back to talking about China and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, I actually think all these issues are really interconnected. Like China lends moral support to Iran and Russia at the UN. They've been, you know, giving them an economic lifeline this entire time. You know, Iran has been helping Russia with these drones, the Shahed drones that they use to massacre Ukrainian civilians. And Russia, as soon as October 7 happened, Russia was like basically lending moral support to the militant cause and the massacres. So I actually think it's they're actually really closely connected. I don't think I think it's actually silly to say like, you know, oh, I think it's silly to pose them like that. Like, really, it's all coming from the same place. And if you look at how Russia talks about Ukraine, right? Like, they talk about Zelensky, the fact that Zelensky's Jewish. Like, they talk about that all the time in their propaganda. It's like a big thing for the Russians. Like, this sort of like genocidal ethnic hatred, not just of Jewish people but also Ukrainians. Like, you know, all this is really interconnected.
Absolutely. Yeah, and look, if anybody would like, at the end of this, I'm more than happy to post a bunch of links to Russia's involvement in the Middle East, especially in the Levant over the last 80 years. I can very easily do that. And you also have Dr. Alistair McCallum as a friend of both of ours who can speak to that.
Yeah, no, honestly, he would be really cool to have on this show sometime, because he's a really smart guy. Their involvement in the Middle East has been horrific. And the funny thing as well, and this is really underestimated by people, there was a really good article on this by Isabella Tabarovsky, I think her name is, in Tablet magazine, I think. But also she wrote for Quillette. And basically she talked about the fact that so much of the sort of like anti-Semitic propaganda we see targeting Israel and all this stuff, and sort of, you know, encouraging militant violence against Israel, like this whole militant anti-Zionist thing, it really comes out of old Soviet propaganda against Israel that they really turned on in like basically the 50s and the 60s. Alistair has, really interestingly, like Alistair has like unearthed you know, like propaganda films from Poland back in like the 60s, I think, where they were basically chanting like, you know, Zionists leave Poland, Jews go to Palestine, this sort of stuff. And then now there was a really good, I remember there's a really poignant quote that I saw talking about all this, right? And I forget who said it, but somebody essentially said, when I was in Europe growing up, the graffiti on the walls would be Jews go to Palestine, you know, in the 30s. And then now, if you're that same Jewish guy and you go back to Europe, it's like Jews go to Poland. Like, that's the graffiti on the walls in Europe. It's kind of sad, because it's like when Jews lived in Europe, they were persecuted, and people were like, people said go to Palestine. That was literally some of the graffiti that they had on the, you know, dabbed on the walls in European cities. And then nowadays you'll see this really famous line that you see on Twitter all the time. Oh, they're not indigenous to land. Go back to Poland. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, well,
I've got your comment. Google Alistair McCallum. He's done some really good work on it.
Yeah, he's a genius. I'm just going to quickly send something. I'm going to so look, my grandma was born in 1933.
And if you want me to put anything on, if you want me to put anything on the share screen or anything, just send it to me and I can put it up.
I think it's okay. For the moment, I don't have anything for you. But look, my grandma was born in 1933 in Budapest, and
oh wow, my God!
And they got out in January 1939.
Wow, that's
so
crazy.
The rest of the family did not get out, but her birth certificate and her family, because they're Jews in Hungary, so for a long time they'd been getting baptized. Right, they did what they could to, you know, but according to the state, make them look not Jewish, and her birth certificate says Israel in 1933. Wow. She'd never been. No one in her family had ever been, but Hungary were consigning their Jews at that particular point to being born in Israel, or being from Israel, or being Israeli more than anything else. So.
Yeah, that's crazy.
She's still never been, I don't think.
Wow. You know, this reminds me of you know what was like pretty despicable moment in Australian politics? When people tried, there was some lunatic, it was probably anti-Semitic, this guy, and he just ran this insane campaign against Josh Frydenberg for years, trying to say, oh, Josh Frydenberg actually has Hungarian dual citizenship. And it was because like I think it was like his great grandmother or grandmother, like had been born in Hungary, but she'd been stripped of her nationality by the Hungarian regime, during the Holocaust. And it's pretty sick. Like they were trying to weaponize that during that dual citizenship crisis to get him removed from parliament. It's like, that was one of the sickest things I've seen, because like we all know what happened to the Hungarian Jews. Like the vast majority of them were exterminated, and everyone knows that. And then to be like, oh, well, he's actually got secret Hungarian citizenship that he should have declared, and therefore he shouldn't be in the Australian Parliament. Like that was full on like sick. That was horrible, like a really horrible thing.
It's bad. It's really bad faith stuff. I mean, look, I kind of often say it's bad taste, but that Hitler won in my family. The surviving Hungarians got here, and they knew that being Jewish was not. They'd already stopped. They'd been trying to not be Jewish in Hungary. So when they got here, my grandma and her two parents, it was like tabula rasa. We have a 6-year-old girl. So my grandma was around my age when she went back through family documents. Her parents had died, at which point she was like, so we're not political refugees. We really are Jews. That makes it's all making sense now. So any Jewish identity was completely expunged from my family by. On top of that, they brought this anxiety with them. My mother said to her mother, hey, I'm going to be taking the kids to shul. Like, do you think it's important that they know where they're from? Hitler shouldn't have to win in our family. We've got a lot of Jewish friends. And my grandma's response was, but why? Like, don't take them there. What if their name ends up on a list? Don't let anyone write their names down. And so there's still this pervasive anxiety. When my grandma sees anything that I've written, if it's to do with Jewish stuff, she doesn't respond or anything. And she's my biggest fan. But and that's not because she's anti-Semite. She was trained from when she was born just to go blank, just like a deer in headlights. Yeah. So
this is so different, and obviously like, so different because it doesn't involve like actually the Holocaust and everything. But I think I maybe understand a tiny bit of what you're talking about, because my yaya, my Greek yaya, like her beloved older brother died like fighting the Turkish auxiliaries in Cyprus during the whole emergency over there and everything. And from that day, she's just like so drilled to not be political. And even now, like, like 80, almost like 70 years later, like I had her like last week going like, Drew, stop the politics, like, and like this is 70 years later, and it all comes back to that founding trauma, like with her. And obviously it's so different to your experience, but like it's so interesting sometimes, like the older generations, how it can persist for decades, that kind of like fear and stuff. It's really interesting.
But you know what?
It's really sad, obviously.
But like, they are the age that they're at because they had to be risk averse, and it would be unreasonable of them to not pass that wisdom on to us, even if it's not necessarily congruent with the current situation. Yeah. So like, I get it. I get it.
It's sad. It's really sad, but I do get it. Yeah, I get you. Gee,
but I'm in
so sad, man, that like she doesn't even respond to your articles about like these Jewish issues and stuff.
Yeah, she doesn't know how. I think for her, it's almost like, why is my grandson doing Jewish stuff? I'm not Jewish, I'm Hungarian. We've had this conversation a few times, but she's 92 now, so things, it's harder to talk, but she will say, like, well, I'm a Hungarian. And you're like, Mars, I don't think they didn't really like you. Like, I think they didn't really want you in the Hungarian club. And she's like, here's all my Hungarian stuff. And like, she's playing Hungarian, and the way that she was taught to play Hungarian, but she's so Jewish. Like, she's such an Ashkenazi, a 92-year-old Ashkenazi Jew. And it's remarkable. And, her friends, it turned out that her best friends in primary school were the only other two Jewish girls. She became friends with the other Jews at university. she still plays in a piano trio, and the cellist is another Hungarian
Right.
Jew. So
Oh, wow.
without trying to be Jewish, and the fact that there's 0.4% of our population are Jewish, and somehow this woman who's been trained to not be Jewish cannot help but be a fucking Jew magnet. So, you can't, they find you. I tried not to be Jewish for a long time, and they find you and they make you two people.
So to this day, like she fully primarily identifies as Hungarian rather than Jewish.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
But she wouldn't, like when there have been times when she has said things like, "But I'm not Jewish because I don't believe in God," Like it's that deep. And then you're like, "But you're Jewish in the," and then dude.
Yeah.
My mum got her an ancestry.com kit. And she's a very agreeable person, She finds a way to say yes, even when she means no. But she wouldn't do it. She would not do it. Really? It took a while to click. And then I asked her, and this is so out of character, but I said, why don't you want to do it? Like, what are you scared of? And she said, what if I'm a changeling? And I have to go and Google what a changeling is. You know? She's scared that she might have been raised as something that she isn't, despite having been raised as something that she isn't. It's like this babushkin level paranoia. What if she finds out? What if she finds out that she isn't actually a Jewish Hungarian Holocaust survivor, or whatever it's called if you left in 1939? And what if and so I did it. I went and did mine and said, hey, look, it says I'm 25% Ashkenazi Jewish. And so then she does hers and she says it says 100%. So she had the confidence after I got it done. But I just, that's the layers to this stuff,
Wow. Damn, man. No, that's really sad with your grandmother. I can understand the trauma, why it's so difficult for her. But we've got some really interesting comments here where
it's sadder from the outside. From the inside, it's actually not.
I understand.
It's really not. It's sad on a zoomed out level because you think about all the different ways in which this has happened to so many people and how it's affected an entire group, blah, blah, blah. But on an individual level, she's had like a very fulfilling life in which I don't believe that these dynamics have really, that she wouldn't consider them a tragedy. In fact, I think she would resent me making it a sad story.
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, it's just a really interesting situation. Out of interest, how did your family escape in time from Hungary?
They were trying for a while. The rest of the family weren't convinced that it was as bad as... I like to believe that Jews have accidentally been selectively bred for neurosis, because it's the neurotic ones.
I have a Jewish friend who literally said the same thing to me, and I can't say that, but it was funny when he said it. I was like, no, but I'm not Jewish, so I'm not going to say that.
You got a K pass.
But my Jewish friend Anthony said that once. He's actually in our chat, right? And he said that once, and I was just like, I didn't want to laugh because it's like very politically incorrect, but I mean, I could understand I guess like a grain of truth there. It's sad. I think he said something like, he basically said something like, think about it, like to be able to still be here today, like you had to somehow have survived all those dozens and hundreds of massacres over history. So you've probably got to be somebody who's like, constantly on the lookout. So I mean, I understand what he meant by that. It's interesting.
Yeah. These are people who've done their customs forms before the plane lands. That's a Jew. But look, the rest of the family stayed, and the letters stopped eventually. But my grandmother and her two parents, they managed to find a way for her father to get a work visa in Australia.
Right.
And And yeah, so the only way they could get out is through this kind of network of someone knew someone in London who was able to get them a working visa for a job in Australia, and then he was able to get to Australia that way. But it was obviously by a series of boats.
Wow. Yeah.
What's this
So,
question? Does Josh think white people should have
Swindon? I'm pretty sure
inclusive
Swindon's like. Pretty sure
homeland?
Swindon is like NSN adjacent. You know NSN. Yeah.
I mean, the answer is no, but we should.
Well, I mean, you would just be against like full ethnostates, right? I mean, in all contexts.
Yeah, I honestly think I'm not really for absolutes generally. I think there's probably a case to be made for even things that I hate, and I think that there's a case to be made against things that I think should be. I think it's a case by case basis.
My view is like I don't think anybody should have like a full 100% ethnostate. And like people try to attack me and they go, oh, well, you support Israel. It's like, dude, Israel has like a large, sizable Arab minority. There's been Arab parties that are part of the coalition governments there. There are Arab Israelis who've been part of the Supreme Court. Like, I don't think like this narrative that, oh, you support Israel, therefore you must support ethnostates. Like, I don't think first off, there's no country on earth that's like pure 100% racially pure. You know, have you seen that Mussolini? There's a quote by Mussolini, and I think it must have been before Hitler went full race science and everything. But like even Mussolini was basically saying like, Mussolini was like, nobody is pure in history. It's all a fucking farce and a delusion. And like that was like fucking Mussolini. He was literally saying that. It's funny. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's all we deal in these. We deal in these hypothetical absolutes. Like, do you believe there should be like a 100%? Well, like, firstly, it's not even possible. Like, I'm not gonna pontificate about things that I don't think are possible. You know, I don't believe in. I was thinking about this earlier, earlier today.
Let me bring this up. I'm going to quickly bring up this funny Mussolini quote because it's pretty funny because like, you know, this guy literally invented fascism, and he's like. Where's this? Is it up there? Yeah. In 1933, Mussolini contradicted his earlier statements of race, saying, "Race, it is a feeling, not a reality. 95% at least is a feeling. Nothing will ever make me believe that biologically pure races can be shown to exist today. National pride has no need of the delirium of race." Like that was literally Mussolini in 1933, and he like literally invents fascism. So it's just like humorous that like even the founder of fascism was like Hitler's fucking retarded. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the best way to ask, because obviously we know what Swindon's getting at. But I reckon the best way to even like entertain this line of logic is to begin with definitions. I didn't finish my law degree, Drew, but I remember the importance of definitions.
I want to tell Swindon. I'm just going to say like, so he's saying, so if Israel was kicking out all non-Jews, you would be against it, right? Dude, I don't support ethnically cleansing anybody.
Israel was kicking out all non-Jews. Why would they? Of course, that would be a terrible idea. Well, I don't know. I don't even think that even the racist right-wing Jews would be like, but who's going to do the grunt work? Like the racist white. Did you see that Donald Trump quote? He was like, all the immigrants are taking black jobs. Like the amount of different concentric levels of madness around racial policy and immigrant policy or immigration policy are absurd. You know, and to speak to this question, so if Israel was kicking out, of course, why the fuck would I? Firstly, they're not going to ask me, thank God. But if they did, I'd be like, I think that's a bad idea for a lot of reasons. Primarily, it's racist. Okay.
What Swindon is trying to get at, he's trying to be like, so these guys, they basically think that Jews support fully 100% racially pure ethno-state Israel, but then at the same time, they want to undermine the white race. Like that's their whole fucking narrative. And I just think it's fucking stupid, but yeah.
I mean, I actually don't mind.
Like Israel's actually a very diverse country, and people don't realize that. But yeah,
it's most of the answers are within a very quick Google search. But essentially, the first question to ask yourself is like, what is a Jew? You know, and I think most of the rest of the questions that are being asked kind of peter out once you answer the question, what is a Jew? You know, like I've heard a lot of
Jews. Like,
yeah, and you know, so the truth is that like Jews don't really conform to modern Western conceptions of peoplehood because we predate them, right? So by definition, we are a living embodiment of all of the things that these people seem to think are great, right? Pluralism is wonderful. Jews. We don't do ethnostates, obviously, right? Wonderful. The Jewish state isn't an ethnostate. If you want to talk ethnostates, let's talk about Japan, or there are so many actual fucking
Pakistan, right? Like
Pakistan.
it's funny because one of the
But people are just so obsessed. People are so obsessed with Israel, and I understand it now, right? Like, they're bombing children, of course, like, why would you not want to talk about that? But unfortunately, a lot of these people seem to have only kind of crept out of the anti-Semitic woodwork right now. And like, the adults at the table have been having these conversations for a long time, a lot longer than this. And unfortunately, every single thing that's being leveled at Israel right now is just recycled crap from the last decade and the decade before that and the decade before that.
Well, one of the things that like really made me question things was like, I saw back in like 20, you know how there's been like 4 rounds of conflict before this round of conflict in Gaza, and I think it must have been like, what was it? It was like, it was one in the early 2010s. It was maybe the first, or I think it was the 2014 Gaza war. And I discovered that there were accusations of genocide against Israel even in the 2014 Gaza war. And that just like did not make sense to me, because I looked at that and I was like, I don't think any genuine historian or scholar could think that the 2014 Gaza war constituted a genocide. So I mean, I think like, there's a lot of very passionate denunciation of Israel, and when it's not matched by somebody's, like, if that same person who apparently passionately cares about Israel and stuff like that and humanitarian, if at the same time they don't care about Sudan, which is right now, more people have died in Sudan over the past year than any other conflict in the world right now. If they don't equally care about Sudan, if they don't equally care about Ukraine, all these other conflicts, like it does raise
how many?
Right? Like,
was it 500,000 dead in Syria between 2011 and
literally 500,000 dead. Like,
it's half a and like, the problem with these are, actually, Drew, I'm gonna fucking cap this, because like, this caters to the anti-Semitism itself, and it also forces us into a position where we have to like pick between horrifying things. I simply refuse. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, but this country is fine because this country is doing worse. Like, horrible things are happening in a lot of places. And my argument is that it would be probably a little more intellectually honest if we were more consistent with our denouncements of the things that we level only against one particular state. But that is not to defend any particular state either. It's merely to point out a flaw in the complaining person's logic, or the anti-Zionist logic, or the anti-Semites logic, whatever it is. These are really different things. And I think that I don't believe it's nuanced, but maybe it seems nuanced. I'm not sure. Maybe I've just had this conversation far too many times. There is a huge difference. Between saying that you support the actions of a particular state and saying, I think that it would be really important for us to talk about how states actually conduct themselves generally in a lot of different parts of the world, in a lot of places, and I think that while I, a diaspora Jew, so far away from this conflict, I'm being told that because I simply believe that the state should be allowed to exist. Right? Just that I believe it should be allowed to exist, that I'm therefore party to a genocide. Yet I'm getting my hair cut and having a great chat with the Syrian barber in Coburg, and nobody has ever, and he explained his politics to me, and nobody's coming up to him and accusing him of being party to a genocide, right? There is a fixation. There's no one going up to Chinese Australians and being like, I actually think that what your people are doing with the Uyghurs is horrifying. Your country doesn't deserve to exist.
Yeah, no one said that ever, right? Like, this is the funny thing. I campaigned against what the Chinese government was doing with the Uyghurs for so long, and I've said that the Chinese Communist Party shouldn't exist and everything, which is the government. But I never once said, like, there should not be a country called China, right? Like, it's just stupid. It's just, nobody ever applies that sentence to anybody else other than Israel, which is so interesting.
Did you just read that last comment?
Wait, which one?
By Swindon? It's actually really
What?
funny.
Why should it exist, bro? Who cares? Just open the border of Israel to Indians. Okay, sweet. You know what's funny? I think they actually do have like trade agreements with Indians. Like, I think they have. I think they do have like guest workers from India. Like, I don't know, just fucking dumb.
Yeah, and unlike
one
Qatar,
of the
they
things-
pay them and they don't bury them in the fucking concrete pillars.
Oh man, this is such a good comment by this sneaky ninja guy though. Like, I have found that like it does seem to me that for a significant chunk of the left, like Israel Palestine's like a golden calf. Like it's just like the obsessive issue, and it just does not make sense to me. I was so frustrated, right? Because for years I was trying to get people to care about like Tibet, trying to get people to care about Uyghurs, and it was like pulling teeth trying to get anybody in the left to care, and then it's like Israel Palestine, and dude, this is the thing that really killed me, right? Like, and this is probably what really changed my mind on all of this stuff. Before Israel had even bombed a single person, it was like, before October 7 was even done, they had the celebration rallies in the streets. And they were saying, this is a great victory. This is the greatest thing ever. They were celebrating the massacres of civilians. And this was before there was any attack against, there was any reprisal by Israel at all. And I looked at that and I was like, okay, these guys just purely want a genocide of Jews. Like seriously, what are you supposed to do here? Like, if they're celebrating, they're already holding, Palestine rallies before Israel's even struck back in anger at all. It's just crazy. And I remember, like, you bring up Fahad Ali, like October 9, he gave that rally. He helped organize the now infamous October 9 rally in Sydney, where they went to the Opera House and there were those horrific chants where it's funny because listening to it, I think I hear "fuck the Jews" and all that. Like that's what they were saying. But then you had like Cam Wilson and Crikey going, "Oh, like a real audio analysis reveals they were talking about orange juice and shit like that, right?" Like they had that. Remember that whole debate? Like they weren't saying "kill the Jews." They were saying "where's the Jews, guys?" Like as though that's so much better. And I remember Fahad Ali, like he gave a speech on the steps of Sydney Town Hall or something like that. And he literally said, "I do not care about the terror in the eyes of the settlers." Like, he was like full on endorsing the violence of that day. And I just think that's a really sick thing,
Yep. I try my best to, I try my best. I'm not great at it, but I try my best to like hold my tongue when it comes to people that I know on a personal level.
I'm not good at
so
that.
I have history with Cam Wilson. I have history with Fahad Ali, and those conversations.
Your article on this subject.
Yeah. So yeah, I will not comment. But look, when you said earlier, like, why is it that people on the left are only someone in the comments said people on the left are only interested in Israel, Palestine. Lefties don't care about other geopolitical conflicts, only Israel, Palestine, from Sneaky Ninja. So this is an essay I wrote within 6 months of October 7. I think most of it is chunks taken from an essay I wrote within 4 to 6 weeks of October 7. And it's me trying to grapple with the psychology. At this point in time, I was studying psychology. And it's me trying to grapple with the psychological makeup or psychological explanations. Because at this point, I couldn't believe that, 95% of my world was not Jewish. And I couldn't believe that. First, I couldn't believe in the ones who were like up the resistance. But
my God.
But it was the silence from all of the other, like the nice people, just the nice people in your life. And when you're like, yo, this fucking hurts. And the best that some of them might be able to say was like, I'm sorry that you're having this experience. The trauma must be blah, blah, blah. And like so few people had it in them just to be like, oh, actually, like, this is not very good.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me so much. I don't know if you've watched this like whole drama unfold, but it reminds me so much of Hassan Pike and Ethan Klein, because like Ethan Klein has literally agreed with all the lefty points about Israel. Like he said, he calls it a genocide. He calls the IDF like a terrorist force. Like he uses like literally all the lefty language, but because he doesn't agree that Israel should be like burned to the ground and like all the Jews like marched into the sea like Hassan Piker. Like they just call him like a genocidal maniac. It's actually really, and Bad Empanadas like terrorize them and stuff. And it's just like insane. It's just insane.
Yeah, man. It's really, look, I find it, I needed to make it make sense because it was making me sick. And the best I could do, hi Dodo, hi all, what we're talking about, great time to arrive. What we're talking about was trying to square the circle of the October 8th response. And
like the rallies in support of what happened on October 7th.
Yeah, and being a Jewish person at the time who I'd never felt like a capital Z Zionist. I'd never felt like this is really, you know. But that's kind of like before Me Too. I never felt like a capital F feminist, or before Black Lives Matter, I never felt like a capital A anti-racist. Like there are certain things that compel you to consider your moral approach to a particular issue. There are certain events that galvanize people and groups around a disposition. And I watched people galvanize around a disposition that was appalling. And I felt like, but hold on a minute, like, do you not know what this word means? And it turns out they didn't. And so this essay that you're now sharing is me trying to grapple with people psychologically transferring Australia's colonial past onto the Middle East. And I think of two different examples. So in America, I think young Americans have a transference, right? And just to briefly explain transference, if you go see a psychologist and you start complaining about your girlfriend or your wife, and that psychologist might say, you're using a lot of adjectives that you used to describe your mother only 2 weeks ago, and you slowly are shown that, in fact, you are transferring an understanding of one person onto another. You're experiencing a traumatic resentment from one thing onto another and trying to kind of exert some type of control over something that you can't control at all. And so this transference that happened within young Americans was simply that, okay, look at our horrible past, look at our horrible racial past, right? And look at this this racialized horrible thing that we can see on our screens. That's the same.
America's a very racialized society, obviously, and they like to see everything through that lens.
Then I think Australia is starting to really grapple over and over again. I shouldn't say starting. We're grappling over and over again with our colonial shame, and I'm someone who believes that Australia is a beautiful and incredible country with a lot to be proud of. And I also believe that Australia did horrifying things to the Indigenous population that we are so far from amending, right? And I think that there's a lot of shame that a lot of us quite reasonably carry with us around Australia's colonial past. And I think young Australians took that colonial shame and have had a psychological transference of that shame onto this colonial narrative, this incongruent colonial narrative that they think is going on in Israel and Palestine. They get to atone for their colonial sins by washing their hands through the Palestinians. I think that's what's going on.
I was going to say, what's interesting? Because, back in the day, I was much more like of a, like when I was 20, I went to the Black Lives Matter protest. Like I was all about, being really progressive and all this stuff. And I still feel bad for Indigenous Australians. I know, there was horrible events in Australia's colonial history and everything. But seeing like the bloodlust, like there is a genuine bloodlust, I feel, in this kind of like, it's when you see the January 26 rallies and people literally had signs that it was like burn Australia, burn America, burn Israel to the ground, and they were just saying like all three of these colonial states should never exist and all this stuff. Like I feel like there's actually kind of like this blood and soil type bloodlust now, where the idea is that like if Australia's stolen land, it shouldn't exist, and everybody here who is not Indigenous like just has no right to live here essentially, and it's like. I look at that and I'm like, after seeing these people apply those ideas in Israel, Palestine, and seeing how that leads to like October 7, I'm like, this is the thing, right? Like I can acknowledge that there have been terrible things done to the Indigenous Australians. I can acknowledge like there's a lot of injustice in our history, but I'm very worried though, Josh, and maybe this is where I'm a bit more conservative. Like I'm very worried that like, if we accept the narrative and I'm not saying you're saying this, I'm just saying in general, like this very popular narrative on the left that like Australia is stolen land and it's founded illegitimately, etc. If we fully buy that narrative wholesale, I'm genuinely very fearful that that ultimately inexorably leads to just like racial conflict and hatred and things like October 7, because these people, I mean, I've literally seen comments by like some of the more radical fringes of the sort of anti-Zionist, anti-Australia colonial movement in Australia. Like I've seen some of these people say like we need an October 7 in Australia and stuff. And like I see that, I'm like, this makes me
really?
I've seen that on Instagram and shit like that. And like I have to say, like, this is probably where I've become more conservative, because it's like I remember when I was like 20, like I went to all the Black Lives Matter rallies and I was all about telling everybody who here that change the date, all this stuff. And now I'm like, dude, I see how like people in this movement are talking about, oh, we need an October 7 for Australia. We need to destroy the Australia. We need to burn this colony to the ground. Like I fear that these ideas that if your country is on stolen land, etc., it must be destroyed or abolished. I just see it like leading to genocidal violence, and so I don't know how in future to go about talking about these issues. Obviously, it's very highly charged. Like I made a video like a week ago where I said, listen, I reject. I'm progressive, but I reject the notion that Australia is like fundamentally stolen land, because if you buy that idea, then Australia can't exist as a country. And I got so many comments, like people going like, oh, you've gone so far right. You hate Indigenous people. You're celebrating the genocide and shit. It's like, it's not that. I'm just trying to say, like, I'm happy that Australia exists. And there's like this very powerful movement, just like how people talk about abolish Israel. I feel like there's now a movement like abolish Australia. It's obviously a fringe movement on the far left, but I see it, on the rise, and it freaks me out a bit.
Yeah, but I just don't see how anything I just don't see how anything you just said discounts the importance of recognizing harms done.
Yeah,
so
because I say that I know that
Yeah.
harm was done, etc. It just,
So
but
I agree. Like I love, like I said, I tried to be really careful. I love this country. I'm very proud of this country. I am so proud to be an Australian. And these are things that 10 years ago, if I had have heard you saying that, I would have been like, you're a right-wing fucking jingoist, fascist, blah, blah, blah. But now I understand.
I mean,
now I have been on the receiving end. I've been on the receiving end of a public health system that, puts people back together. The roads work, the public transport is there. People say hello to you, and I'm not even going to get the beaches. This is a good place to live. This is a good country. But I understand as well that like we do have a section of this country that are experiencing a very, very, very different standard of living, a different fucking century.
Yeah,
pretty regularly. And so like as a patriot, fuck, did I just say that? I'm going to say it. As a patriot, I want everyone to have a quality of life. I don't think it's possible for everyone to have the same quality of life, of course, but I don't want it to be determined by the color of your skin or where you're born. Yeah, and I think that we can have both, man. And I think that like the people don't want us to know that we can have both.
Yeah, look, obviously I get around the idea of, progressive patriotism and stuff. I think the core thing is we all have to try to reject that far left shit where it's like, where they're literally just talking about abolishing the country, hating the country. I think it's so alienating to people. And I guess the problem is like, I fully acknowledge like there have been terrible injustices done and stuff in the history of Australia, but I just think like the core idea of the movement that we now see when it comes to like January 26th, where it's like you literally have the whole abolish Australia people. And I just think like, honestly, I see like the logical outcome or the logical conclusion of those ideas to be horrible violence. And like, that's why I reject it. Right.
Yeah. I think they're retarded.
Hard. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah. I used to think that was a reasonable thing. I used to be a big abolish Australia Day thing.
Was like, when I was like 15, when I was like a fucking kid, I probably was like that. But like, thing is, like, I grew up, I think honestly part of it is growing up, because like I grew up and I just realized like, no, it's actually, this is this is a nice country. I don't want it to be fucking in flames. I don't want to have a revolution. I don't want to have fucking violence. I want to have I want to be able to live. I just want normal people to live. Like,
yeah, man.
Yeah, I remember like just very slow process for me becoming a bit more conservative. But like, I remember I was in a philosophy class at UQ and we were studying like the French in the 60s, and we were looking at May 68. I was like the one guy in the classroom who just basically was like, May 68 was retarded. Why were they even doing what they were doing? There was no fucking like there was no point. Like it was like you know, people talk about it like, oh, we had all this material comfort, but it wasn't enough. We wanted something spiritually more fulfilling. And it's like, I like look at the world now. I'm like, dude, I would fucking kill to just be able to have like a suburban house. It's harder for our generation. Like, I feel like the boomers were so fucking like they fucking didn't know how good they had it. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you could be out there with your hosing down the garage driveway, and we can't do that. We can't do that shit. Yeah, I know.
The cement driveways with like fucking beautiful. Protect that shit. I don't want to have a fucking terrible. I just want to be like hosing down the cement driveway with the other Greek Australians. I don't want a fucking civil war like these crazy communist people. Yeah.
Look, I was really shocked. It was 2021, I think, was my kind of, you know, was when things shifted for me a lot regarding anti-Zionism, I guess. And as in, I was hearing the word a lot more than ever before, and I was quite concerned. Now, there's this guy I was in class with. He's just like the worst guy I've ever met at uni.
Yeah.
Like just all of the things that you think I probably resent, and it was just all of them rolled into one, and just like the most virtue signaling, talentless, just like mediocrity on legs. But he and a hypocrite, you know, like really moralistic. But then the people around him would be like, that guy is so anyway. I remember a brief conversation on Instagram with him before I had to block him, and I blocked him because I was scared of what I might say next. He was talking about not only should all of the Jews be forced out of Israel and back to Europe. So I was just like, okay, man. It's like, what about Australia then? And he was like, yeah, all Australians, white Australians should be shipped out of Australia and left to the indigenous. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And this guy is now lecturing the course, dude. He's now lecturing the course. I shit you not, at RMIT. He's now fucking lecturing that.
Who? You should name this guy.
It's not right.
Dude, that's sick though. He shouldn't be teaching people. If he's literally genocidal like that, he shouldn't be teaching people.
I mean, look at some of the genocidal maniacs in Sydney Uni alone, or ANU.
Yeah. Where do you think the worst has been?
I don't know, because I don't go to uni, but my partner has been doing a master's at USyd, and when the encampments were up at USyd,
dude,
I walked through the encampments. I said hello. I speak lefty commie. You know, I lived with communists for years. I was the only guy without a hammer and sickle tattoo. Like I was, and they were real. Look, these were lovely guys. They're good men. That's the truth. I'm not going to talk shit about them. Just young, you know, and they were nice to me at least. But the
thing is, if they read your articles, they would hate you, though, man.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like you if they read your articles.
I've lost many. Yeah, there was a lot of people who don't say anything.
I lost a lot of friends, man. It's so sad. I lost so many friends in the Uyghur community. That really killed me because I did years of activism work on behalf of that, and that was really fucking sad, man. I have to say that was really fucking sad.
Whoa. Have you've
what are you saying?
I'm just baffled. I was going to ask, have you spoken a lot about that? Losing friends in the Uyghur community?
I reckon I probably lost like 90% of my Uyghur friends. And it's really sad. Like I never set out. Like there was not even a single Uyghur person that I messaged and said, hey, I don't like your post. Even if I saw someone posting really horrible stuff, I never out of my way tried to cause a fight, but I had people messaging me saying like, it's a disgrace what you've become and stuff like that. That's fucking sad, man. Like I literally devoted like 3-4 years of my life to like trying to talk about the Uyghur genocide, and I still really care about it. I still talk about it, and like it's just sad. It's just really sad. Like my hypothesis as to why this happened is, I think a lot of it's sad. It's actually a really sad thing. I think like a lot of the younger Uyghur activists. I remember having conversations with them years ago, like where we both we were talking and we agreed that like it was really sad because there hasn't really been support for the Uyghurs from the Muslim, like from the worldwide Muslim community, like the Ummah. Like it's been been pretty muted, and I'm pretty sure like almost every Muslim country on earth, even Turkey, like has basically avoided calling it a genocide. And so I remember we used to talk about that back in the day, and everyone was really frustrated by that. And I remember even talking with these people, like a lot of my Uyghur friends, like they thought it was really unfair and hypocritical that like people didn't talk about the Uyghur issues, but they talked about all these other conflicts. And I think what happened maybe is like after October 7, I think a lot of them maybe hoped that like, because obviously it's like Israel-Palestine is unfortunately like an issue that I had a friend who once said this to me, and it's probably sad and true. Like he was like to me, like the one issue that can unite like the global ummah is like Israel-Palestine. And when he said that to me, I thought he was joking, but to be honest, with hindsight, I think he's probably right, because obviously there's an infinity number of issues that will like cause infighting within the global Muslim community, just as there is an infinite number of issues that will cause infighting within the Christian community or the Jewish community worldwide. Like that's just human beings are always prone to conflict, but it does really seem to be that the case that Israel-Palestine is like kind of like a very tribalistic issue, and I think people run the risk of basically being called traitors if they. I think a lot of people in the Muslim community, like if they don't go along with all like the really hardcore activist stuff, like they run the risk of being called race traitors and stuff like that. And I had a friend, for example, who was a Uyghur friend, and he went to the University of Melbourne. Really smart guy, had a Juris Doctor. We had lots of conversations before about Israel-Palestine. We probably were on the same page on almost every single major political issue. And when October 7 happened, he was horrified. He posted, "This is disgusting. What Hamas has done is completely disgusting. I completely condemn it." And I think what happened is maybe he started receiving, attacks from other Uyghurs or other Muslims saying like, you're sort of, you're being a Zionist, blah, blah, blah. That's the worst term of abuse, it seems, for a lot of people in this community. And he started changing and ended up like fully, like he hates me now. Like he's threatened to like bash me and this crazy, like just crazy shit. Like literally threatened to bash this guy, like who was my best friend for a long time, ended up threatening to bash me over my views with Israel-Palestine and everything. And he became really radicalized. Like there was a photo of him marching next to a Hezbollah flag in Melbourne and stuff like that. This was a guy who like a year prior, we were talking and he'd be like, yeah, Hezbollah scum. Because he was a massive anti-Assadist. We used to be fully in agreement on like the Assad issue. And I think if you asked him, he'd still say, yeah, like the Iranian regime's bad, Hezbollah is bad, Assad's bad. But he was happy to just like walk next to a Hezbollah flag at one of these rallies, right? And it was just sad, like watching that guy get radicalized like that. And just losing friends in the Uyghur community. Like I literally dedicated myself for years, and yeah, like I copped a lot of attacks because from the Chinese government and stuff for what I did. And sad that in the end, like I got called like a Zionist and Jewish and stuff like that. And yeah, just like lost friends. It's fucking sad.
Yeah, that's terrible. It just
fucking horrible.
It's like there are too many people watching right now, but it's a really horrifying experience to have. I think it struck me the way that you described the tribalism is very similar to the tribalism that we were discussing at the very beginning of this video.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's so sad. It's really sad.
And this was a JD, someone who got a JD in Australia.
Yeah, dude, this is a guy who had a Juris Doctor from the University of Melbourne. He was a smart guy. He was an intellectual guy. And within a year, he was marching next to like guys holding Hezbollah flags. And I remember calling him out on that. And he basically was like, "Oh, you only ever criticize the protest movement. You won't criticize the genocide and stuff like that." And I was like, this guy had a Juris Doctor. This guy was a really smart guy. And for him to become fully radicalized like that, and like, you know, I think he's told people like, I will bash Drew on sight if I see him and shit like that. And it's
Well,
like, dude, this guy was like my best friend for a long time. Like, it's
yeah,
really
that's horrible.
fucking sad, man. Like, if you read on my Substack, I've got an old Substack post called Dialogue on Israel Palestine. It was literally, I literally took like a dialogue discussion that we had on this subject, because there was after October 7th, there was still maybe like 2-3 month period where we could still talk and still debate this issue still relatively in an intellectual fair way. But then it eventually just got to the point where like, yeah, he just so much rage had built up in him, and like the funny thing is I think like honestly talking to him almost made me more like, you know, a believer in the fact that Jews should have a state, right? Because just like, he was a guy who had a Juris Doctor from the University of Melbourne, and he was telling me, oh no, like Jews actually don't necessarily descend from you know, the ancient Israelite kingdoms. They actually come from Eastern Europe. He was saying this shit to me, like basically regurgitating the Khazar propaganda shit. And it was crazy to me because like this guy had a Juris Doctor from the University of Melbourne, and he was like a smart intellectual guy, and he was going over the Khazar shit. That's fucking sad, man.
Look, it's hard for me to get mad because I think, like I said in the essay that we discussed earlier, like I understand how people get there, and I speak from experience. Like there was a long period of time. You know, what is strange to me is that when I was there, I was waking up and like putting opiates up my nose and drinking until I couldn't think properly. And you know what I mean? So I feel like I was pretty twisted up, and you know, in that kind of insanity of my late teens, early 20s, I was ripe for being radicalized. And the whole you need to break a few eggs to make an omelet thing, you know, you're so far removed from violence, and so the violence happening to other people seems almost like this game that's important. You know, it's important that they do that game. So I get people, how people get there. What I don't understand is how people get to the other side of 30 still like that. You know, like when I see people at these rallies, like older people who've
this guy's older than me. This guy's like almost 30, and it's sad, man. It's fucking sad. And I agree with you. Like there are some older people at these rallies, and it's fucked up.
It's like, how are you still there? You know, how did you not? Yeah. But you know, I think like earlier when you asked about my experience of October 7th, it was basically just that, it was that October 8th was where it hit me, because it was all of these people around me who just, you know, were not there anymore all of a sudden. And I think the galvanizing moment for me was I was up in Sydney some months after, and there were all of these signs along King Street that said "Globalize the Intifada."
Oh, fuck that! Yeah.
And revolution. Right, so there was a distinction between the Intifada and the revolution.
Yeah,
and then I was also seeing like around these posters like really anti-Semitic stickers, like caricatures of Jewish faces. There was this one everywhere that was like, if I don't steal it, someone will.
Dude. So what happened was, I went to a Palestine rally at UQ, and I was just filming it. And they thought like, oh, that's a Zionist agitator, Drew Pavlou or whatever. Someone stuck that sticker on my bag. And I got so pissed off. And I like literally went into the middle of the rally and I just screamed like, you guys are anti-Semites, it's disgusting. And then some older Palestinian guy tried to fight me, and like, yeah, it was a crazy experience because someone put that sticker. It's like, because I know that sticker, it's like a full Zionist star and everything.
I've seen the video.
Yeah, because what it comes from is I think it's like this like weird, creepy settler guy. And we are both critics of like, you know, the far right extremist settlers, but it was like they choose this one settler guy, and they putting him under like, you know, the Jewish star, and then they're just trying to like putting this sticker everywhere saying like, you know, this is what Jews are like. That's what they're trying to do there with that sticker. And
I mean, it's just the definition of racism, right? Like it's
and they put it on me, man, to say like, oh, you're Jewish or whatever. So I got fucking pissed off. I'm not even Jewish, and it fucking made me so angry. Tell me more. Sorry, for cutting you off. Like,
no. That was I actually remember. It's funny. I saw that video, and that was a really important video for me at the time. I had completely forgotten about it. I'm sorry, but
you mean my viewer from UQ?
Yeah, with a guy sticking the sticker on your back because at that time it was just like there's no one who isn't Jewish who gives a shit. So that was really, and that was shared to me, and not a Jew sent that to me, and it was like interesting to find out that this guy wasn't
I kind of
Jewish.
look.
So I appreciate that a lot.
No, thank you, man. It's funny. Like, people ask me like why, and I still get all these comments going like, "Oh, Drew's paid by Mossad," or "Drew's paid by the Zionists." The famous one that I think the lefties love to go on is that so I obviously ran at the last election. Not this one, like the one before 2022. I ran like a small independent ticket that was basically just it was basically just an anti-CCP ticket, and I had like a Tibetan candidate, a couple Uyghur candidates, and stuff like that. And as part of that, I got a donation by this guy Simon Fenwick, a 25K donation to the party. And we used that donation to campaign against Gladys Liu, who was a Liberal MP who had basically refused to call Xi Jinping a dictator. And Simon Fenwick is like a conservative guy. I knew when I took the donation, like lefties would just attack me for it for the rest of history or whatever. And this was like I got that donation like a year and a half before October 7 or whatever. And Simon Fenwick knew that I was like a more lefty guy. He knew that I was anti-Trump. He knew that I wasn't liberal or anything. And like, he still donated to me because he like agreed with the anti-CCP message. And like the narrative, and this was like what Bad Empanada does. Hassan Piker has accused me of this. Like, it's so crazy. Like, literally the biggest streamer on earth. Hassan Piker, Bad Empanada, all these guys. Because Hassan got it from Bad Empanada. But essentially the narrative is, oh, Drew got this donation from this from this conservative far-right Zionist billionaire or whatever. He's not even I mean, I'm sure Simon probably supports Israel, but I've never even, like, I don't know, like, and the narrative is, oh, Drew was paid by this guy to change his views on Israel-Palestine. Because people have gone back and they found that, like, when I was like 18, I had a pro-Palestine post, and they're like, oh, what's it like, Drew, to sell out all your principles? And it's like, dude, I was a lefty when I was 18. I got a donation by this conservative guy. And then way down the track, completely out, like, way down the track, nothing to do with the donation, nothing to do with any of that. I just watched October 7. I just saw horrible massacre, and I saw all these people I thought were my friends, including some of my Uyghur friends, celebrate that as a great day of decolonization. And that's what affected me, right? Like, that was the thing that fucking woke me up. It wasn't because I got a fucking donation in 2022 or whatever. Like, it's just fucking bullshit, right? Like, I get people accusing me, oh, you're paid off. And it's like, it's not that at all. Like, I guess it's hard for people to understand why I care so much about it. Is probably, honestly, it's probably because I was so shattered to see people who are people I counted as like some of my best friends, right, go out there. It was like when I watched October 7 happen, and then I saw people who were among my best friends in the world just post like all that dumb, this is what decolonization looks like stuff. And I just had this really strong sense inside me, like, this is horrible. And maybe I'm a natural contrarian or whatever, but I'm like, if all my friends are going to say that, I'm going to I don't care if I lose my friend. I'm going to say this is wrong. This is how it works for me, right? And unfortunately, all these people were like, oh, Drew must have been paid off by fucking Mossad or whatever. People can't understand that I just had principles or whatever. Or like, I just had a view. I was just sickened by what I saw some of my friends posting. It's sad.
Yeah. And I also think, like, speaking to having had a Palestinian flag in your room, like, what's wrong with that?
Sorry, what did you say about the Palestinian flag?
Like, what's wrong with having a Palestinian? Like, let's just say hypothetically that you now considered that a bad thing to do, which I don't.
Yeah.
But let's just say you consider that a bad thing to do. Like, since when was elasticity a demarcation of anything more than maturity when it comes to your worldview?
Yeah, dude. Like, my views of this is the funny thing, right? Like, I guess I don't have this. I'm literally turning 26 next month. Yeah, I'm 26. I don't have the same views I had when I'm 19. And people go, oh, Drew's a hypocrite because his views changed over 7 years. Like, no, it's not that at all. Like, it's just stupid, man. Oh, yeah. Man, it really pisses me off. I really hate this idea. Like, the only reason why somebody would hate October 7 is because they were fucking paid off. Like, what a fucking bizarre idea. Like,
look,
you know what the truth of it is, man. Like, I was just watching. I watched all the videos. Like, I just straight up watched the videos. Like, the Hamas guys film themselves with the GoPros, going house by house in some of the kibbutzim and just literally shooting people. Like, I watched the video, like, of the aftermath at the Nova Festival, where the first responders go up and they basically, like, look behind like a bar, like there was like a bar, like a Coca-Cola bar or whatever, in the middle of the festival, and they look over the thing, and just literally 30 bodies, man. Like, I watched that, the fucking chills went down my spine.
Yep.
I saw the photo of, like, you know, a pile of elderly women, like elderly people just massacred at a bus stop. I just saw that. And of course, who can forget, like, the infamous scenes of Shani, you know, the young woman who, like, her shattered half-naked body, like, being paraded through cars. Like, I watched that, I was like, how the fuck could anyone say this is a good thing?
I just was watching these videos. Like, I remember this half-naked woman in the back of a ute, and there's a hole in her head. I don't know if it's been beaten in or shot out, and men are leaning in over the side of the ute, just spit in the hole of. Meanwhile, in my hand, people who I've sat next to at university, people who I, you know, have known for a long period of time, are sitting there sending me messages that it's not real, that the Israelis did it to themselves, but also it didn't happen. And
also they deserved it at the same time. It's the same as the Holocaust deniers. This is how the Holocaust deniers operate. They say, oh, it's not real, it didn't happen, but if it did, they deserve it. That's exactly how the October 7 deniers operate. Dude, you know, I'll just straight up say it, because, like, I don't care anymore. The one that really shattered me was a dealer. Like, she was a good friend of mine. She ran on the Democratic Alliance ticket. You know, when I found that I formed, like, this small party, and I helped the dealer run, and she was, like, the youngest Muslim woman to ever run in Australian political history on my ticket as a Uyghur woman. And after October 7, she posted on an Instagram story, like, this is what decolonization looks like. I didn't even say anything to her at that time, but I remember seeing that. I was like, this shatters me, man. This fucking shatters me. And it wasn't even just her. Like, there's so many people that, like, are counted as good friends, and they were, like, posting shit like that. And I think that's what actually changed that's probably what pushed me in a more conservative direction. And just maybe the natural contrarian in me was like, no, I'm just not going to let this slide. And that I've had people, like, that I love who've literally been like, Drew, are you getting paid off by the Jews? I'm not even kidding. Like, literally extended family members who said that shit to me. And it's, like, fucking sad, man. It's like, and, like, honestly,
I wish.
I wish, yeah, exactly. I fucking wish, man, that we're getting the Mossad gold bar drops. But it's just, like, it's just fucking shattering, though. Like, to have all those friends of yours, and they were just celebrating this fully inhumane massacre. And, like,
yeah, I'm like sitting there like, oh, I'm not even. It's just so bizarre when it's so obvious that this is just morally not okay. And it's so bizarre watching other people look at something that's so obviously morally not okay and tell you that it is somehow justifiable. And, you know, for me, watching Marine Faruqi take to Twitter to refer to the mourning of Jewish civilian deaths as a tragedy, right? Like, and that's, for me, that set the tone. I've got a large database of different Greens candidates and MPs activity over the last 18 months. And just, you can see it. It started at the top. Maruki and Bant, Max Chandler Mather.
All of them did, yeah.
I always forget that guy's name, and I'm glad that I do. Chandler Mather, I think.
So his wife, Joanna Horton.
I saw it.
Yeah, who's a serious Greens political party figure in her own right, because she helped manage some of these Greens campaigns.
Share it.
What do you say? Yeah, let me find that. Yeah, literally, I'll literally share this on the stream. And I just want to say as well, I'm sorry to the guys who said that, unfortunately, my internet's been playing up today. I'll definitely try to fix that. I don't know what's happened, because I've got one of the fastest internet connections. But yeah, hang on, I got it up. Oh man, this is sick, eh? Yeah, so, dude, there you go. Like, how do you fucking come back from that, right? Like,
well, look, they didn't, did they?
They didn't. They literally didn't. Like, this is his fucking
By the way,
life.
don't know if you.
What does it say? Wait, what does it say? Oh yeah, good, good stuff. Good stuff.
I actually don't know where I got it, but
what a wipeout, eh? What a wipeout. You know what? Like, how about for the last little bit, because we're nearing 2 hours, how about for the last little bit we talk about specifically the Greens getting smashed and the election result? Because I think it's worth talking about, right? It's actually amazing. It's actually amazing how much Yeah, of course. Yeah, guys, it's sad because like my stream yesterday, we had like 35 live viewers, and it's a lot lower today. Maybe it's because of the internet. I don't know why, but in the StreamYard link where I'm recording right now, everything looks fine. I don't know what's happening. Yeah. I'll try to see on my YouTube what it looks like. Yeah, sorry, man. What were you saying?
No. I think you just said that for the next little bit we should talk.
Yeah,
about
well, let's maybe to conclude, let's talk about the Greens wipeout because that's pretty amazing. Why do you think the Greens went so insane with the anti-Semitic shit? And also, would you say I'm sure you probably agree with this, but like, would you call at this point like the Greens are an institutionally anti-Semitic party? It's like Jeremy Corbyn style Labour. It was like Labour under Jeremy Corbyn. I think that's how I see it.
Yep. So is the question, how did they actually let that go public?
Yeah. Like that's the question. Like, how did that happen? Why did it happen? Like, because it's really fucking weird. It really is strange.
So it's been brewing for a long time, and the waters were tested, I think, very loudly in 2021. There was misinformation spread very quickly about some things going on in Israel. I'm not going to go into the details, but it was very obviously crap. But watching a bunch of people around me start sharing it and sitting there being like, oh my God, I have to like play whack-a-mole, and going one by one being like, hey, I agree entirely with the XYZ, and this should definitely be better. I'm not happy about this particular thing about the country, blah, 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 blah. But the particular thing that you're sharing is misinformation. It's not true. And here is this from the other angle where you can see and so I saw this fertile ground open up. And I think that what happened on October 7th was it gave, I don't think this was a deliberate strategy. I think that Maureen Faruqi just said what she meant on the 8th or 9th, which was that when the Australian government wanted to light up Parliament House, and I think there were a few other landmarks, just blew. It was simply to acknowledge the civilian tragedy that had happened, right? As a normal person would. And she posted it and said, "This is a disgrace, one colonial power supporting another." And
that's so mental.
And that's so many people just went. I think the top comment, or at least on my thing, is Claire Lemon of Colette just saying, "You are the disgrace." But so many people seem to think that there's something I think it's very immature. Like it's a very immature political space to be like, okay, what's like the most like risque, contrarian type of thing. And I just think there was actually a real fashion element. So I think it was very fashionable. You know, a lot of people like, wow, like that's an interesting hot take that's like kind of spicy, but totally true because fuck Israel and I've boycotted SodaStream. And then Adam Bant comes along. And then Chandler Mather comes along. And then Jenny Leon comes along. And then Omar Sakr make Omar Sakr the MP for Blaxland. And all of a sudden the Greens rubber stamp a particular type of...
so unhinged.
They start speaking about this entire thing in a way that no one would ever consider speaking about. But somehow it was green lit. Somehow they just, and I think that, you know, I know that a lot of people, there are a lot of like racists, I think, who kind of are like, oh, it's because of all like the Muslims in Australia or whatever. But like what I saw was mostly young, white, like undergraduates finding a reason to yell and complain. I think there was a lot of fashion.
That is a part of the story. It's hard because I think it was a very toxic fusion of like the far left with pretty hardcore Islamists, like fundamentalists.
But they couldn't have done it without, like, they were already there. We already had fundamentalist Islamists. We already had that, you know, like that was already there. But just the people who were like at universities, or people in the arts, like the way in which we've seen this weasel its way through the arts is insane.
We should talk about Khaled. We should talk about that Khaled Sabsari guy. There's so much to talk about, but like, you know, the Venice Biennial, how like, you know, there was this massive petition for him, and like the reason he was removed was because he made artwork that like arguably glorifies Hezbollah and Nasrallah. And it's like, it's a
Mm.
crazy, like, why would he represent Australia if he's literally making artwork that, glorifies a listed terrorist leader? But yeah, it's just insane.
I mean, look, I would say in his defense, that I don't think it's fair to say that it glorifies Hezbollah. I don't think it's fair to say. What I do believe is that the guy what I know is that the guy hates Israel, and he's on the record. He's on the record. He's previously boycotted Israeli artists before in Australia. So this is somebody who's he's not anti-censorship. So for me,
that's funny actually.
I don't really like to take the argument. I did, like, originally when this first happened, and I'm looking at his art and I was like, this guy's so obviously, but surely he should, even if he's not for Nasrallah, surely a normal person would come out and say, oh, like, yeah, I was being politically provocative. I'm trying to get people to think I'm an artist, but no, of course I don't support Nasrallah.
Yeah.
But he never, all he had to do was fucking say it.
Now,
who would forego $100,000 and a trip to Italy and being the Biennale representative?
Nuts. Right?
Surely you would just be like, oh, I don't. Why did he not say it? Why did he not just say, I don't support Hezbollah, I don't support Hamas? Exactly. I'm not even going to say that.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I don't even think that it means that he does support them. I'm not saying that. But those who do support them support him. And it is so in vogue, it is so fashionable to say, no, they're the resistance. And so it's in the milieu, but I would not go so far as to say that he is like a terrorism supporter or whatever. He's a peacenik, and he hates Israel, and he's complicated, and he's an artist. But the point is that he was obviously picked to represent Australia.
I just think it's like wrong for him to represent the country if he's got such sectional views. That's how I see it, right?
I believe that his nomination, just I want it on the record, is totally reasonable, given the like political circumstances. Like, you can understand why someone would be like, maybe that's not quite right at the moment. But I do think that what all that had to happen to like just make this not an issue would be just for him to have been like, oh yeah, like I'm a political provocateur, I'm an artist. Of course I don't support of course I don't actually support the 9/11 attacks, and of course I don't actually support. And all he had to do was say that, but for some reason,
because he did something about 9/11 as well. Hey,
it was called "Thank You Very Much," and like I don't want to like prosecute a point that I can't prove, right? So I'm just not going to say I think I know what's in the guy's head, but I do know what would have been really nice to hear, which was, hey, don't worry, that's not in my head.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm representing like the whole country on a peace platform. It's all.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, that's what makes me so frustrated. Like, I don't think they represent the whole country. Like, I think they're pretty sectarian. A lot of these guys, like, they don't think in terms of the wider Australia. Like, they just don't think in terms like that. I think that's.
I don't know, but what I do know is that the art world has fetishized these people. It's an Orientalist fetishization.
Yeah, sure.
It's like actually quite a racist kind of. I see this like modern movement in art of like the fetishization of the Levant and Levantine people as almost akin to blackface or those what were those dolls called? Those the gollywog dolls.
Gollywogs.
It's like the gollywog doll of 2025. Like, it's just it's tasteless. It's tasteless, and like I swear, like decades from today, people are going to be like, "Oh, that's what they were doing. They were fetishizing a particular minority in order to make themselves feel better about Western colonialism or whatever the fuck."
Dude, it's so strange. Like, I've made this point before, right? Like, I'm technically from the Levant myself, because like the Cypriots are Levantine people. They're Greek, but they're Levantine. And like, I've made this point before. Literally, the northern half of Cyprus to this day remains militarily occupied by Turkey. And I don't know a single person on the left or a single Cypriot or really anybody who would think that it would be justified for Cypriots to form like an armed terrorist group and like try like do a like reconquista of the north and like just constantly launch like just massacre raids against the north. Like, I don't think a single person thinks that would be fucking acceptable. Not a single person. And no one's calling for that. But it's just strange because, like, in the context of, Israel, Palestine, yeah, just forever race war against the Jews is apparently a progressive position. And none of these people care about like Turkey occupying like the north of Cyprus. No one gives a fuck about that. This is the funny thing. Like I've literally got family members, extended family members who lost property and homes in northern Cyprus that to this day they've never been able to, like they just can never get it back. And you don't see me advocating for like fucking the reconquista of the north. Like you don't
Wait, you're not wearing the key around your neck? I'm wearing the key to my Hungarian grandmother's apartment from when they were asked to leave in the Hungarian Nakba.
Like, none of us do this stuff. None of this stuff. Like
no, but they've been groomed. These poor people have been groomed to believe that if they're just patient enough and violent enough when it's right, they'll actually be the only people to ever inherit refugee status and then walk back into their apartments. Like no one's saying this is right. No one's saying this is morally wonderful. No one's saying this is a great thing. Everyone's saying that this has happened to all of us. I was at a Palestinian, a Jewish Arab mix kind of like interfaith meeting months and months and months ago. And this conversation was going on about the right to return. And someone in the room said, okay, like just who here believes that their family should have the right to return to blah, blah, okay. And then that person said, now who here's grandparents had to leave wherever they were in the 1930s or the 1940s? And everyone put their hand up. You know, it was so interesting watching all these people who were like so right to return. If we just hold out, we can eventually push the Jews into the sea, return them to Poland, whatever it is, and we'll get it back because we're wearing these keys around our necks. And then it's like, have you never considered that, like, why the fuck am I living in Australia? Like, why the fuck are you living in Australia? Like, we're a country full of people who, I mean, I don't know, man. I just feel like this obsession with like...
It's an obsession.
You can't... It's not going to happen. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it wonderful. It doesn't make it not a tragedy. But if you keep killing people to turn the clock back, and these Western idiots...
That's it, right? That's exactly how I'd say it, right? Because, like, of course, I think it would be a great thing if, like, for example, Greek Cypriots who were displaced in the 1974 Turkish invasion were able to return to their homes. Of course, that's what I would like to see. But I would never advocate going forth and massacring and genociding people in pursuit of that goal. Like, it's just not right. It's just not acceptable. And I just don't
understand. Because you were allowed,
that.
because you were given somewhere safe to go. And their neighbors have done everything they can to bottle them into a particular area. They've been denied what... I mean, I'm not going to pretend that my people walked in here. Like I said, most of them were gassed, and my grandma and her two parents managed to like weasel their way through this working visa thing in order to get out in January 1939. Wow. They managed to squeeze out and find their way here. It wasn't easy, but they did find their way somewhere. And the tragedy of these people living in Palestine is that they haven't been given anywhere else to go because they've been pumped with this idea that if you stay long enough and fight hard enough, you'll get it back. And here we are today.
That's the extremists who have said, like, no, never have any negotiation, never have a peaceful negotiated settlement. The only way we will have, the only way we will resolve this is through violence. And like the extremists want that. And it's a real shame. It's horrible. Oh, damn, it's so sad, man. It's so sad. I just think, unfortunately, the narrative and the ideology that has sprung up around all this is just so toxic.
Yeah.
And it's so genocidal, really. It really is like the idea that, just the Jews can be pushed into the sea with enough violence. Like, it's just such a mentally insane notion, and so genocidal. So blatantly genocidal as well.
Or the idea that you can like bomb Gaza into submission. Like this idea that like,
of course.
Like this just
like the Smotrich view where
these people are fucking horrifying.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, there's just no,
just of course. We're both against the Smotrich and Ben-Gvir like horrific,
100%,
horrific issue.
100%. Yeah. I think that like these people should be allowed to live where they're from, and I think it's that simple. I think this narrative that some of them shouldn't be allowed to live where they're from is really bizarre, especially among white Australians who have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah,
and like I
well,
said,
like there's obviously a lot of really privileged uni kids who just like do not understand what it means to be like fucking, you know, to face your people being ethnically cleansed and genocided and stuff like that. It's just really easy for them to laugh.
Yep.
It is like a lot of it is like live action role play, and it's I'm getting a lot of comments saying the stream's not working. Damn, I think
Should we
we're
call
hitting,
it?
Yeah, look, let's call it because it's been 2 hours. We actually just hit 2 hours. I'm hoping that I'll upload the video as well, and I'm hoping that the upload will not have the lag and everything. Hopefully that'll be okay. Look, you know what we should do? Maybe what we should do is maybe even like later this week, we should have Alistair on as well. We should have like a roundtable discussion. It'd be interesting. Like we should definitely do this again with like yeah. No, we should definitely do this again. Yeah, look, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate the conversation. It's really interesting, and really appreciate your perspective. And I'm going to quickly put up your Substack again so that I can encourage people to go to it and subscribe, because I think you're doing some really good work. Hang on, where's this?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, of course, man. I'd really like to see a fellow young person, you know, in the Substack grind. We're both trying to make it, you know. So I really want to encourage you.
It's actually so funny. We can do a I'll talk to you about it offline. But my guys at Mossad have some strings they can pull with the Jews at Substack, and
here. Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. We'll talk to Mossad.
I need to update that. Thank you.
Your latest one, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, yeah. Look, so glad to have been here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. Look, we will do. Let's do another one with Alistair for sure. Like maybe even later this week, and then I'll figure out what was wrong with the lag stuff, because it's a shame, because I don't know. Like for me, it was coming up perfectly, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people in the chat were saying the reason we were losing some of the viewers was with the internet. So I'll look into that, and hopefully next time it'll work.
Dude, can you just keep this, just before we go, can you just bring up Peter's last comment?
Oh, yes, Mr. Dabelstein, can I donate some shekels to you for free?
Okay, so it's Dabelstein.
Yeah, he misspelled it as well. Peter, go subscribe to the Substack, please, and subscribe to me as well. We'd appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Peter. Good on you. And yeah. Josh, how do you rank? People keep asking me how I ranked my ballot.
Yeah, okay. Easy Money is asking.
I don't remember. I know I put Labor. I put Labor first, and I put the Greens last. And,
mate, that's what I did. So respect that.
You know, yeah. Hope that was okay. Easy Money. Can I have some shekels? Easy Money.
Dude, that's literally how I put my ballot, one Labor, Greens last, and people got so pissed at me for it. But I think it was funny. Honestly, I think that's the way to go.
Can you look at Peter's last? No, actually, fuck it. He's right though.
Oh man, that's fucked up. Well, people often say that about Ben Shapiro's sister. I'm not going to comment on it. It's fucked up.
That's what I'll be Googling as soon as I get off this. I'll catch you later, and all of you perverts in the comments. Thanks so much.
Fucked up. All right, see you later. Thank you so much, Josh. Thank you, bro. Thank you, man. Guys, maybe I'll stay for a little bit. I don't know. Is the stream better now? Let me know. It's a shame. It's a shame that apparently the internet was not working. Please, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, let me know. Is the internet better now? Because I did a Wi-Fi speed test and said yes, it's better. Yes, it's better. Oh damn, Matt, I don't want to put any shade on Josh, but maybe it could have been Josh's connection. Because look, I came last minute. It's been fine. I actually paid for like the fastest internet you can get in Australia with Superloop. I've got like 1,000 upload, 1,000 download. So I surely think that my stream shouldn't be struggling like that. Guys, I've noticed when you have other people on it, often buffers. Oh, that's a shame. Irvine says blah. Guys, if you're watching, we've got a very low audience right now. Maybe just spam the chat and help try boost up the help me boost up the viewership. If you just spam the chat, Cover Hassan's reaction to H3 nuke. I will actually. Is it still freezing when I'm solo speaking? Yeah, spam the shit out of the chat so we can go higher in the YouTube algorithm. I'll get up the Hassan Piker reaction. Maybe your computer can't handle the workload. What's the workload though? I'm not even doing anything. Surely not. Surely not. Yeah, guys, spam the chat so we can try to get some more people. I'm getting up the Hassan YouTube reaction to H3. What the fuck is 9 hours? What the fuck? You're getting Matrix attack spam. Drew, did anybody from yesterday respond like Woodgrains? Actually, Woodgrains did respond. We might do an episode maybe later this week. Time to mask off and become the new Andrew Tate. No, I don't think so, mate. Guys, spam so we get more people watching. Spam that shit, please. And the one guy who's watching on Twitch, spam that shit, please, so we can try to get more people watching. That's what we need right now. We've got... Sorry, is the internet doing better now, guys? Is the internet doing better? Would you believe us if we said Hassan didn't finish it with 9 hours? He might have swatched to India, Pakistan. What the fuck's this guy's problem? He's such an insane cunt. Oh, dude, man, it's 9 hours. I don't know if I can fuck.
Isn't junk food, by the way. I think that in this process, you guys will find a bunch of instructive, informative talking points. I feel like reacting to the context nuke from my former podcast co-host is most likely going to be a much more productive setting, considering that I have the capabilities of pausing, inserting my own clips if I choose to do so. It will most likely be an infinitely more productive process than trying to have a debate, because these are all of his gripes that he has with me. And this is what he thinks, if I show to my stream, will end my career. Now, the content nuke itself is long. Okay, it's called the content nuke. I call it the context nuke. I've called it the content puke in the past, but I feel like it's the context nuke. Now, I've yet to watch this thing in its entirety, as you guys know.
Guys, I'm sort of thinking maybe I should just do a new stream tomorrow on the Hassan thing, because I've got like 10 people watching right now, and it is almost midnight. What do you guys reckon? Listen, I might call it a day now, just because unfortunately we don't have that many people in the stream. I think the internet issues unfortunately really played a role tonight. Still freeze lagging. Damn, man. I don't know what the problem is. I really don't know what the problem is. Easy Money's calling me lazy. Bro, I don't know what the problem is. Like, unfortunately, my internet's still fucked up. Let me have a proper look at this. Because unfortunately, it's played a decisive role in smashing me tonight. Listen, I'll do a full Hassan reaction tomorrow. It's been look, I really enjoyed my conversation with Josh Dabelstein. It's really a shame that unfortunately my internet seems to have played a part, or maybe his internet. I'm going to have a look at that. And look, I'll do a full reaction to Hassan tomorrow. I swear to God. Your stream quality inconsistency is going to be a real throttle to your future growth. Like, listen, I'll try a big event tomorrow, long stream tomorrow. I'll do a long stream tomorrow. We'll make a really big effort. I'm sorry, guys, about today. At least I put something out. But look, I'll try my best to figure out what's wrong and make sure that tomorrow's a lot better. Thanks, guys, for watching. Thanks for tuning in. It was a big disappointment that a guy as rich as Drew Pavley has internet issues. Dude, I pay for the best internet subscription I possibly can in Australia. I don't know what the fucking problem is. It's a real shame. But yeah, listen, guys, I'll do a full one tomorrow. I'll try and make sure that my internet problem is fixed. Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And signing off, God bless you all.